I'm busy building this Land Rover Defender 110 into an overland vehicle for the purpose of taking the family to some remote and interesting places. I could very easily spend tens of thousands of pounds kitting this vehicle out to be overland ready with all the new shiny latest gear. But that's not really attainable for an average earner like me. So it got me thinking, what do you actually need to go overlanding? Like actually. I've done some pretty big upgrades already, such as fitting some rock sliders, a snorkel and installing a roof rack. And if you want to watch those videos, I will link them below. So number one for me is building reliability into your chosen vehicle. Know your vehicle's little quirks and weak points specific to your vehicle, and then do your best to address those. You don't want to be caught out somewhere in wherever you are with a water pump failure or whatever, and you knew that that was a known issue for that engine. Get those things sorted out one by one. Every single vehicle has their little quirks and things that they are not great at. Sort those out before you hit the trail. And do yourself a favor, learn basic maintenance. Keep your vehicle serviced regularly. Learn how to do the basic filter service with the oil filter, fuel filter and air filter, and keep on top of that service regiment. And I can hear you saying, oh, you know, if reliability is number one, why don't you just get a Toyota? Well, I've had Toyotas. I've owned many Land Cruisers over the years, and they are phenomenal vehicles. But I have a Defender, and I love Defenders, and this is what I've got right now, and I'm super happy with it. And in my opinion, there isn't another vehicle that is as good looking, fully kitted out in the middle of a crazy landscape than a Land Rover Defender 110. Hands down the best looking vehicle. And if your vehicle is good, then it kind of takes care of point number two, which is sleeping arrangements. And if you're like me and you don't have an amazing camper van conversion with all the bells and whistles, you can always find a hotel or a B&B or something if the weather goes really, really bad and you're kind of stuck out in the element. It's no big deal. Just go and find a cheap little hostel or whatever just for one night. Just get out of the weather. I found that there is a sliding scale of pain in the butt versus expense, and I call it the Overlander's dilemma chart, where you've got a little gentle tap on the butt in the pain on the butt section, all the way up to being shot in the backside with an arrow. And on this side you've got cheap to expensive. A ground tent is a massive pain in the butt, but it's really cheap. It's kind of sits about there. All the way on the other side you've got your Icarus pop top conversion. It's like a gentle tap on the butt, just a love tap, but it's mega expensive. And right around the sweet spot is something like a roof tent, where yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's not too bad, and it's kind of expensive, but it's not overboard, and it sits right there. I'm going to be looking at the second-hand market, something like Facebook Marketplace, to find a good quality second-hand roof tent. Some of the good brands are the South African brands. You got Easy On, Howling Moon, Front Runner's good as well. Hannibal is another one that's fantastic. Roof tents do have a couple of drawbacks though, like having to set them up and using a ladder while being exposed to the elements to get into your bed. But the advantages far outweigh the negatives for someone on a budget. You can keep your bedding up in the tent when you fold it away, meaning that there's less stuff to store in the car. My challenge is that I need to find a tent big enough for 2 adults and 2 kids who turn into starfish during the night. Number 3 for me, something that's essential, right, is the sort of kitchen side of things, the cooking, the eating, water, that sort of stuff. I like to cook over fire as much as I possibly can, and a lot of campsites have their own little fire pits and tools that come with it. But you do get really good quality, portable, collapsible fire pits with grids on, and then you just need a few utensils and you're off to the races. It's a very inexpensive, very simple setup. If you want to go to the far end, you know, there's guys doing induction cooking and all sorts of stuff. That for me is absolute blasphemy when you're out doing overlanding. I mean, what's the point? It's, you know, just stay at home. It's like if you want all of those modern comforts and things like that, yeah, don't go out. But for me, when the fire isn't an option and I just want to boil up some water or fry something in a frying pan or make a cup of coffee or something like that, a little 2-ring Kodak gas burner is perfect. The only drawbacks with that is you have to carry enough gas for your journey, unless you can buy some en route somewhere, and if you're cooking in the wind. So you got to just be mindful of that, because you know it can take so much longer to cook if the wind keeps blowing your flame, and it takes forever to boil a pan of water and cook some pasta or something. If you can afford it, the cutlery and utility set from Frontrunner is really good, but it's not necessary. I mean, you could spend 1/10 of that getting some sort of non-breakable cutlery and pots and pans off of Amazon. It really doesn't have to be Overland specific stuff. Just want to be able to not worry about it clattering around in the back of your vehicle. You know, water can be a little bit tricky, and if you want to be like true overlander, you get one of those lifesaver jerry cans, which is like 20 liters, and you can basically scoop water out of a stream, and then it pumps through a filter, and it filters out like 99.9% of all kind of impurities and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. I can't quite swing the 300 pounds for that jerry can, so I'm going to rely on just getting some 10 liters or 5 liters supermarket water from time to time. Every couple of days or so we'll just stock up, and I'm going to store it in, I've got just a simple £8.50 25 litre water container off of Amazon, and I'm still experimenting, but I got this rechargeable tap pump thing, which just I'm going to jerry rig up onto here, and then when you want to fill up a cup or fill up a pot or a pan, you just press a button and it pumps the water and you switch it off. It's worth an experiment, I think, just to make life a little bit more comfortable. More on that in a separate video, I think. Another big category worth considering, number 4, is electronics. Now, we've all got electronics, and this can be a pain in the butt when you're out on the road. You know, charging your phone, charging your laptop, charging your camera, charging your head torch. Everything needs to be recharged. And the dual battery setup in a vehicle with split chargers and solar panels, and it can be insanely expensive. I mean, it's really nice, but I don't have a few £1,000s to put in a hardwired system and have touch controlled lights and all this sort of fancy stuff. I mean, just use a head torch. So as a compromise, what I have come up with to meet my energy needs while we're away is something like a Jackery. Now, I know that these aren't cheap, but they are cheaper than doing a split charge 2 battery, leisure battery, solar panel, blah 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 system in your vehicle. But yeah, these are also expensive and not totally necessary, but it's just what I've chosen to do. So if you're not familiar with a Jackery is basically a big power bank, right? And it gives you your 240 volt over here, and you can charge all of your electronics over here. USB-C, USB-A. It also has a cigarette lighter, and it's got AC and DC with a pure sine wave inverter. Everything in one little box. It can be charged in 2 ways, through the mains or through 12 volt solar panel or whatever. It's an amazing piece of kit. I got this in the Black Friday sales. It was 40 something% off, marked down from £900 to $4.99. So this is hopefully going to solve all of our power needs while we're away. I haven't figured out if I'm going to integrate something into the vehicle to charge it up, or if I'm going to put a solar panel, or what I'm going to do, but this is not fixed to the vehicle. So if we're at a campsite where we can't camp near the vehicle, I mean, I know that blows my roof tent idea out the water, but we can also we can take this out of the vehicle and take it with us, and we've got power on the go. As the flexibility is one of the reasons why I went for this, and it's just all in one. I don't have to run wires and just blowing my brain trying to figure out how pure sine wave inverters and AC DC chargers and DC to DC. Dude, I don't have the brain space for that. I just want something simple to work. It's a really great little bit of kit, actually, and I'm going to do some more in-depth videos on this as I use it, and as we kind of get to know one another. But this is hopefully going to power a fridge and all of our electronics in the car. I'm going to keep things really, really simple. Number 5, I would label as comfort items, right? Things that in a pinch you could do without, but make a huge difference to the mood and the morale while on the road. I'm talking camping chairs, tables, awnings, things like that. After a long day of driving, you don't want to be fussing around with a silly camp chair. You want something to sit in that's really nice and comfy, and you can make a fire and you can just sit there and, it just holds you comfortably. You can just sit there and enjoy nature. The best camping chair, I've been through a few, but the best camping chair that I have found is this guy, made by Front Runner. It's the expander chair. The beautiful thing about this is it's super comfortable and takes my weight. I'm 100 kgs. It packs down to this. I mean, that's really hard to beat. They're about 90 pounds. But man, they're so worth it. I mean, you're going to be spending 50 or 60 pounds on an okay one. I would definitely spend the extra money. Get this Front Runner expander chair. Super durable, super comfortable, and packs down really, really, really small. The other thing is a table. You can do without it, but it is something that has so many uses. But the problem with it is it takes up a heck of a lot of room. So it's finding somewhere to put it. I think that's a worthwhile trade-off because of the value that it adds around the camping area. An awning is very expensive if you get a good one, but don't underestimate the value of shade. If you're going out camping in the summertime, which we are going to be, to keep the sun off of your baking head, man, I'm looking seriously. I'm going to look again at the second-hand market for awnings. I'm looking for that 270-degree batwing kind of vibe, so that there's no poles on the ground. I've got little kids. I don't want them running into and knocking over poles and everything collapsing. I want a self-supporting 270-degree awning. That's the goal. That's what I'm aiming at. I can't quite afford it just yet, but hopefully one comes available on the second-hand market, because when we were doing our Africa trip and we were in Sudan and it was 46 degrees, I wanted to crawl under the vehicle just to get a little bit of shade. It was crazy how the sun cooks the top of your head, even with a hat on. So that's one of the things in the comfort section that I'm seriously looking into. Number 6, navigation. Navigation's a big one, obviously. Nowadays, Google Maps, man. In 2012, 2013, when we were doing our big Africa expedition, Google Maps was nowhere near what it is today. I mean, Google Maps is amazing now, and you can build routes and maps and download them onto your phone for offline use, so you don't have to worry about signal and that kind of stuff. It's incredible, really. But failing that, paper maps, just like Mom and Pop used to do it back in the day. Paper maps don't need to be recharged. They get you out of a jam. You can stick them away somewhere in the car, and they're really, really, really handy just to have around. First prize though would be something like a Garmin Overlander unit. That's what I would love, because it's overland and off-road specific, so it'll show you tracks and things around in each country that you're in and give you ideas to explore. That's what I'm aiming at, but cha-ching. So for me right now, it's going to be Google Maps and paper maps. Now I guess the sort of final section which I feel needs to be addressed, even with the simplest of setups, is number 7 is storage, or storage systems more accurately. Space in these vehicles is at a massive premium. You will find over time, and it does take a lot of time to dial in a system that works for you and for your needs. It just takes time. But storage can either make or break a journey. I mean, if you're constantly fumbling around and trying to find and scratching through bins and boxes, it's miserable. The more simple you can keep it, and the more accessible to the everyday things that you can make it, the easier your life will be on the road. It can be a simple solution of a couple of bins in the back, or on the sort of upper scale is like a drawer system and a beautiful sort of compartmentalized pull-out systems with fridge runners, and lovely. But again, a huge price tag attached. For my needs, I have to keep the rear seats free for the children, so I can only use the load bay, the very, very back of the vehicle, for any kind of storage. So I'm aiming at putting in a drawer system at the bottom and a shelf system at the top. The drawer system will be, I guess, dust proof and sand proof, and some food and the cooking and all that kind of stuff will go in there. And on the shelf section, I imagine the front runner chairs will stack up there. The sort of everyday grab things will go in the shelf. I want to be able to get to camp, pull the chairs out, set up within a few minutes, and open the drawer, and there's all my food in my pans and ready to start cooking, and nice and accessible. I mean, in an absolutely ideal world, and if I had the budget, I would get rid of those stupid sliding windows at the back of the Defender, and I would put in those gull wing panels that you can see from, I know Front Runner do some, and Explore Glazing here in the Netherlands or somewhere. That would be a great solution, because then you can access the back of the vehicle from the side as well. You don't have to reach from the back door all the way to the very back. You can go around the side, open that, and you can get access straight away. That will be a huge bonus, a huge plus if I can pull that off. And I think on one side I would have the cookware or the fridge or something, and on the other side have access to things like oils and lubricants, filters and bits and pieces, maybe some towing straps, that kind of stuff. Easily accessible in case of an emergency. But that is a very expensive option and not entirely necessary. It's more of a want than an absolute must-have need. But when you're considering storage, just keep in mind the things that you want to get to every single day, your kettle, stuff to make teas and coffees, quick stuff like a chopping board and some knives to make a sandwich or something like that, needs to be almost immediately accessible. Otherwise you're going to drive yourself bonkers scratching around in boxes and bins. Another solution for the Defender specifically, there is a storage box which fits behind the rear wheel on the passenger side. There's a bit of dead space there near the exhaust behind that rear wheel. There's just a huge big cavity. There are a few companies out there that make a lockable locker that sits in there, and that's a great little spot. We'll see how we progress with that one. That's also a want. So it's an incredible privilege to build a vehicle like this and to do holidays like this with your family, you know, going off the beaten path and finding all these places in nature that are real and authentic and can help you connect to the country that you're visiting and meet locals and go to restaurants that the normal tourists don't go to. That's why I love overlanding. It's a wonderful tool to help you access these places and experience the world in a different way. But the bottom line is you don't need all the bells and whistles to be able to do this. I mean, obviously you need a vehicle or a bicycle or a mode of transport, but you don't need all of the big shiny things and get yourself into insane amounts of debt trying to be an overlander. My wife and I did Africa on an absolute shoestring budget, and we had the worst vehicle out of everybody that we met, but we had an amazing time and we did everything that everybody that we met did. I mean, we broke down a couple times and it's just part of the story, I guess. Let this be permission for you, or hopefully it encourages you that you don't need the biggest and best and shiniest gear to go out and do overlanding. You just need to have an attitude of wanting to explore and lowering your threshold of comfort. Unless you got the money to do it, and then by all means, buy all the stuff. Go for it. Absolutely go for it. For someone like me, an average guy who earns an average amount, you don't need all of it. The most important thing is the experience and going and doing it. I'd rather save the money for fuel and for ferry crossings and for food than to buy the biggest, shiniest things and shower attachments and 4-in-1 tire inflators, and yeah, nice to have, but who cares if it takes you an extra 5 minutes to set up camp? So all that being said, hope you continue following along this journey as I build and kit out this car. Please give me your suggestions and input. A lot of you guys are way more experienced than me at this overlanding and four-wheel driving things, so if you have any ideas or suggestions, please fire away in the comments. I'd be super excited to read them. I have been getting some really nice comments. This Defender or Land Rover community is just really nice bunch of people so far, and yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this. I'm really enjoying myself. Yeah, stay tuned, because there's some updates and some things with the vehicle that are happening pretty soon, and I hope you tag along. So please do consider subscribing and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.